Hello, everybody. Glad you are with us here today. We're going to just give this a moment, as you do nowadays, right, to let everybody join today's webinar. We have a lot of people registered here today. You are in the right spot if you are here to talk about the 60th anniversary of community action. We're just going to let the numbers roll up here a little bit and let everybody be able to join today's webinar. Please feel free to put into the chat a little hello and where you're from. We'd love to know who's on the call. My guess is we have coast to coast and beyond. So thank you so much, everybody, for being with us here today. Look at that, state of Washington coming in right off the top. And of course, probably snowy Rochester. Great. Thank you so much, everybody, for being with us. All right, I see the ticker has kind of rolled up and has paused a bit, so why don't we go ahead and get rolling? My name is Denise Harlow, CEO here at the National Community Action Partnership, and I'm so excited that we're able to kick off 2024 with today's National Partner webinar to help us begin the commemoration of the 60th anniversary of Community Action. We're joined here today by the national partners of the Community Action Network, including David Bradley, the Chief Executive Officer and co-founder of the National Community Action Foundation, Allison Maloof, Executive Director and General Counsel of CAPLAW, Cheryl Williams, the Executive Director of NASCSP, and we're also joined by Jeannie Chaffin, who under President Obama was the OCS Director and so is now a senior advisor here with the partnership. Across these windows, you have experience at the local, state, and national levels that goes across decades. We have local agency experience, we have state office experience, and we have national experience as well. So today's conversation, and we hope it will be a conversation, is really to kind of, again, kick off our year, which we know is going to be busy. It's going to be full of different kinds of events and commemorations. And I think this is a great way to us starting off on the right footing. As you saw yesterday, David and NCAF sent out the e-newsletter featuring that yesterday was the 60th anniversary of the State of the Union by President Johnson declaring an unconditional war on poverty in America. Partnership also sent out an e-news with a little clip as well alongside Poverty Awareness Month. So again, it is appropriate that we are really kicking off here today. We're going to put into the chat the link that David shared that features the War on Poverty speech. If you haven't watched it, I encourage you to do so. We watched it as a staff here at the partnership yesterday morning to really try to kick off our year on the right footing. This will be a busy year. And we're going to have a conversation today about how all the national partners are coming together to really elevate the visibility of community action, to help local agencies and state associations and lift up the great work that's going on across this country. We know that many local agencies may not even be celebrating their 60th anniversary here in 2024. So you're going to see tools and resources and events that go beyond even December 31st, 2024, as we commemorate again the decades of work that have gone into fighting the causes and conditions of poverty. We are united as a group of national partners in recognizing this 60th anniversary. All of our organizations are going to be commemorating this event, providing you opportunities to participate, and I hope that you will come out. Right? We know that you will, whether it's our winter or summer conference here at the partnership, whether it's NCAP's conference in March, whether it's NASCAS conference in March and or September, and or if it's going to LA for CAPLAW's conference in June. There is a ton of stuff going on. You've also seen, we're going to put into the chat the commemoration toolkit that is available up on our website, but it is meant to be used, borrowed, taken from, take what you want, don't take what you want. It's there to be a tool and resource, and more information is always going to be coming out. And so we're going to have a conversation here today. The chat window and the Q&A window, I believe, are both available to you. We will pause periodically to look at questions, to look at comments, and we'll be coming back at the end of our conversation to really lift up some core questions. So please, if you have questions or comments, please share them. We want to hear from you. As I mentioned, we do want to have a conversation, and hopefully you can see all of us on your screen. We are recording today's webinar, so you can share it with your board, with your staff, with your volunteers. Please feel free to use what you want and don't use what you don't want to use, right? So again, thank you for being with us. And David, Allison, Jeannie, and Cheryl, thank you so much for making time out of your busy schedule to be part of today's conversation. So let's jump in. David, again, you kicked off yesterday by sharing the 60th anniversary of President Johnson's War on Poverty State of the Union. You've been in this work for decades. You are the author of the CSBG Act. You have been the key player and partner to keep community action and CSBG thriving in this environment. What does this 60th anniversary mean to you? And how would you like to start off today's conversation?
Well, first of all, thank you for conducting this and doing this for the network. I appreciate it, and I look forward to participating with all the other participants. There's a lot of emotions that come through when you realize that it's been 60 years. One is I'm getting old. Geez, time goes by quick. I haven't been involved 60 years, but I've been involved with 2/3 of our history. Second, what a fascinating, long and winding road we've had on this program. And I look at, as one who's involved with the history of the program, I look at the debates about the goals of the war on poverty. I remember distinctly a conversation that I had with Sarge, in fact, it was taped, in which I asked him, what is victory in the war on poverty? And he laid it out, and it was opportunity, it was access to education, access to job training, healthcare, things like that. And in addition, it was that no community in America will be able to avoid the poverty question and duck the poverty question from then on out. So I look at the history on this and I think, you know what? We've done a lot, and we're a lot further along to being successful than people think. So that's number one, because we shouldn't let the opponents define success, which they do. We need to push back. Second, and this is personal, and this is probably the most serious thing I'll say on this hour. I think of a lot of individuals, heroes in both federal government, Congress, and the executive branch, state, local directors, heroes, heroines over the years that have really made a difference in the survival and the forward path of this program. And you look back, I happen to be sitting in my house in my library, and over the weekend I cleaned and found all these letters from Kennedy and others, the Ted Kennedys and the Chris Dodds and the Fritz Hollings and the Charlie Rangels, and it's just unbelievable. All the people and the Lowell Weickers, all the members, most of them have left the scene, and that's true. The heroes and heroines in our network, that I don't want to see them forgotten, because we've had a lot of people that stepped up. And then finally, the last thing that comes to my mind is Johnson was accused of starting the war on poverty in a political year, that it was a political gambit. He needed to do something on behalf of the Johnson presidency, not simply carrying over the Kennedy agenda. Second, it was his way of completing the FDR, the New Deal revolution. Third, it certainly appealed to the Kennedy wing. And we could go through a couple other issues that people say that's the reason he started it. And that's the reason that we launched a war on poverty. That forgets one important aspect, that it was morally the right thing to do. And in a country that is so broken as we are now, I look back to what I think is the real reason we launched a war on poverty 60 years ago, and I think it's still valid today. And the fact that we have overcome so much opposition gives me hope that we can play a role this network in healing this country. So when I hear 60 years, it's a confluence of mixed emotions and different emotions, it really is.
Yeah,
So that's my answer.
thank you. And grounding us in the moral reasoning and the moral construct of this network and the purpose and the mission. I 100%, 100%. Thank you. Allison, you've been in this field a long time. Community action, I know, has a special place in your heart. What does the 60th anniversary mean to you?
Yeah, thank you, Denise, and thanks for including me. I've been a part of Community Action now for close to 16 years, which is, yeah, hard to imagine. I know, I just turned 25, so it's been a long time. I started really young. Anyway, it's hard to follow David because he's got quite the history, but I'll say for me, when I think about community action and being a part of something that's been around for as long as this movement has been around, I think it makes me think about community and how important community is. And David touched on that. And I think it's really when you do as David said and take a step back and look at the fact that we have a piece of legislation, we have a statute that basically forces our communities to work together on such a seminal issue. It's incredible that it's lasted as long as it has. And, hats off to David and everybody doing the work in their communities to make sure that we continue to meet the needs that are out there. I think that community action is sort of the only kind of federally mandated program that basically is telling a community that it needs to take care of itself, and it's set up in such a way with the tripartite board and every aspect of that community coming together to take care of itself and to help those that need assistance, because there are so many of us and so many individuals and families out there that it doesn't really take a lot to tip those scales. And we've seen that during the recovery period, our period. We've seen that with the pandemic most recently, and it's just been amazing to think that for 60 years we've been able to continue this role in sort of what I would say kind of magical area of funding that really doesn't exist in any other form or fashion, in the level of flexibility that we have to meet these needs in our local communities.
And I think when you listen to President Johnson's speech, right, the local was built into the sauce from the very beginning. The CSBG Act is grounded in local control, and today that is and remains our hallmark because poverty is different in every community. Thank you. Cheryl, your view with the state offices certainly I think is unique. And I know that you come to this work with a significant advocate voice and heart to this work. What does the 60th anniversary mean to you?
Well, first of all, thank you so much, Denise. As everyone has said, I'm really pleased to be here and be a part of this panel and to help commemorate this anniversary. And I think, as I look at this, I really feel like this is an opportunity for us to move the needle forward and educate and re-educate some folks and rededicate ourselves to the grounding that was laid, as David talked about, sort of this moral grounding that we have within the act and within community action. And I think particularly at the state level, and I think this is probably true, across the network, but certainly we have a lot of new administrators who are coming into states who maybe they know something about community action, maybe they don't. Some of whom are in states where their leadership or legislatures may not know a lot about community action or CSBG, or frankly, may be outright hostile to it. And so I think that this is an opportunity for us, as we are reflecting on where we've been, where the roots lie, is to also reinforce for those in the network, strengthen their comfort level with the work and the promise of community action, but also to, you know, as you mentioned, as advocates, to be advocates for this work, because we know the successes that it's had over the years and how important that is. And even as we know in this political climate, it's all the more important as we go forward for another 60 years that we are making sure that folks and our stakeholders within our local communities understand the value and importance of community action.
Great, thank you. And Jeannie, I'm going to turn to you. I know both of us have had the privilege to be able to work at local agencies, and at various steps. You've worked at the state office. I've worked at a state association. And I think back, it'll be 30 years this April. I walked into Schenectady Community Action Program as a social worker, and to have seen community action ebb and flow and shift and grow and thrive in so many places. Your view, having been the former OCS director, to have been a frontline staff, to being at the Office of Community Services as the director, you've seen a lot. What does the 60th anniversary mean to you?
Well, thanks, Denise. Thanks for asking me to be a part of this and to come alongside you and the partnership team to help plan and reflect and think about the future related to the 60th anniversary. I think, you know, I've had the privilege, as you noted, to be in a lot of different roles. And, you know, I've seen that, you know, this is a network, thousands of community action agencies touching millions of lives, and thousands of community action staff and board members and volunteers. And Allison, you use the word movement, and it is a movement, and it is rich and deep, and it has achieved a lot. And I think as we face this kind of pivotal moment, David, you mentioned that, you know, politics and things are kind of broken. We've had a tough 4 years, unprecedented challenges in this country, and who knows what the future looks like, right? Politically, socially, economic, you know, lots of challenges. And it just seems like a lot of things are converging at this moment when we have this milestone. And I think we really have an opportunity in our network and in our movement to, yes, reflect on the past, but also to think about what do we want in the future? How does community action help this American experiment to get pointed in the right direction, right? I think you're right, David. We can play a role. We have played a role in the past, and hopefully we will continue. And Cheryl, your point about new state directors, we have so many new people at all levels of this movement, right? Associations, executive directors, new young people who are just the first days of their careers coming into community action. So I think we are just really at a moment where all this is converging, and we can sort of use 2024 and our 60th anniversary to reflect, but think strategically about the future. So I'm really excited about this year and what we all can do together in this movement.
And I'm glad you talked about looking ahead, right? And I think everybody here is talking about, you know, looking ahead. What can we do to build on what we've done over the decades? And the COVID example, the pandemic example is a great one in terms of how we responded in the moment. For me, community action, right, certainly is grounded in equity. It is grounded in the civil rights movement. And that remains true today, is to ensure that all people have opportunity. And what do we talk about in the Community Action Promise? We care about the entire community. And that's what community action is all about, right? Right, left, blue, red, purple. We are on all sides of the aisle. We care about all people. We care about all communities to move forward. And I'm just going to put a pin in next week, honoring Dr. King's legacy. We'll be hosting a webinar on the 17th. If you're not registered, I hope you'll join us. And we're going to have Thelma French from Total Community Action and Delissa Solomoyo, our board chair, talk about the link of community action's 60th 60 years of history tying to Dr. King's legacy as well. But that leads me into the conversation about there's a lot going on this year, right? We could do webinars every day, and there probably are webinars every day. And thank you to my colleague Denise, who's putting a lot of the tools and resources in the chat. David, NCAF, we turn our eyes to you, right, in terms of leading in so many of these important moments. The NCAF conference in March is going to be kind of a flag for all of us to turn our eyes to DC. What are you thinking about when you think about how do we commemorate 2020 or 2024 and the 60th anniversary? What is NCAF doing? Where would you like us to kind of rally around you?
Well, it's an interesting question, and it's a somewhat of a complicated answer for the following reasons. One, part of this year really needs to be educational to make people understand what the war on poverty was intended to be, what it is, what the Great Society was, what Johnson and Shriver and others' visions were, to make an awareness of the speciality and the uniqueness of this program. And a number of you have commented about all the new people in the network. New faces sometimes lack knowledge. So we want to play a role on just increasing our education, our understanding of this. It's number one. Two, we're using this as an opportunity to try a few Hail Marys, but a few things in Congress on behalf of this. And at our conference, you mentioned our conference coming up, we're going to have a debate about was the war on poverty successful? And with a little luck, it all depends on the last speaker I'm working on. This will be broadcast by C-SPAN, and it's what we want to say, just pros and cons. And so we're working on that. We're working on with a core of people in Congress to use this not only to advance some legislation, put some ideas out, but also the 60th anniversary gives us pretty much an open door to educate them as well. So there's a lot of travel going on. And then we are participating in discussions, which I think your next question will allow me a better opportunity, but to really look at what are the celebrations? What do we want to accomplish? Who's the target? We've got some specific questions on that, but let's all maximize this 60th anniversary, because I don't think many of us will be here for the 100th. So got to do it on this one.
Education, awareness, taking advantage of these opportunities. I can't wait to see the debate that you're hoping to host at your conference. I think that'll be fascinating in terms of the conversation. This is our moment to, again, help elevate. So thank you. Allison, you're going to be in LA. It'll be a little warmer than it is right now. I know some of the audience is buried in snow at the moment and or wind and rain, but what do you have on your plate for CAPLAW?
Yeah, so we're going to promote some of our resources that really focus on the Community Service Block Grant Act. I think educating is a real key piece here, and sort of understanding that that's really the bedrock of where we are now with respect to community action. It's that funding that makes us a community action agency and brings us all together. And it's the flexibility and the uniqueness of that funding that is what we're really celebrating, that was birthed, in 60 years ago with the Economic Opportunity Act. So we've got our CSBG training module, which we just released last year and updated. And we've got some webinar series, the mastering the ABCBGs and things like that we're going to promote as part of, make yourself knowledgeable about why we're celebrating what we're celebrating, because we have this amazing piece of legislation authored by David Bradley that is making it possible for us to fund the work that we do. At our conference in LA, we hope everyone will join us there. We're going to have, as part of our opening session, a celebratory aspect around the 60th anniversary. It's still in the works, what we're creating. It will be fun, and it will be LA centric. The location of this conference is right next to where the Oscars occurs every year. So there's some built-in celebratory framework that we're hoping to kind of feed off of with respect to that celebration, because we want to take a moment to congratulate ourselves, especially those of us who've been in this work for quite a while and have really contributed so much of their lives to this effort to help everybody in their communities live better lives. And as you noted, Denise, such an important part to help those who are typically not seen be seen. So I think that's just really critical. We're also going to have some other activities happening throughout our conference that will be, we'll let the network know about those once we open registration and start putting information out there about that, which should be in February/March. And then we're planning to participate in all the webinars and activities that everybody else is doing as well. And hopefully we'll have a lot of those. National Community Action Partnership, of course, NASCSP, of course, and David, of course. So we're looking forward to all that.
Great. Can't wait to see your star on the Walk of Fame or whatever it is out there, Allison. Excellent. And as we talk about what's going on nationally, I encourage you as local agencies, state associations, and others to put into the chat, what is your agency doing? How are you lifting up at your association's event on the 60th anniversary? We'd love to see some of what's going on that way in the field as well. Cheryl, I know you have 2 events every year at NASCAS, one of which will be in DC. I should know where your fall one is, but I can't remember off the top of my head. But talk a little bit about how NASCASP is going to be elevating. I know we just celebrated, the CSBG 40th. We just had some weatherization anniversaries. How are you going to be lifting up community action more writ large at your conference?
Well, in a couple of ways, it goes back to the point of education and making sure that people have a solid foundation and solid understanding of where we are with community action. And so one of the things that we are really excited to, and we have planning for in the works, is to bring back some of our longest serving state administrators who can give the historical perspective of community action from the state perspective, and also as an opportunity to offer advice to some of our conference attendees and newer members, and so that they will have some ability to kind of access some of that historical perspective and some of that institutional knowledge. But we also want to take some time to kind of cultivate even those who are who may be newer to community action and get their thoughts about what community action means to them. I think it's really important to be able to incorporate, all of those perspectives and viewpoints. So we're excited to kind of have some interactive activities during our conferences this year. Like others, we're going to be hosting several things throughout the year with blogs and videos that we're going to try to put together throughout the year and really make this, an interactive engagement. We'll also be working with some of the states. I know that some of the state associations are doing this as well to get some commemorative or, get their legislatures or city councils to do commemorative proclamations. That's the word I'm looking for. Proclamations in their states to make sure that they are recognizing that at the state level as well.
Yeah, those proclamations, right? We see them bubble up, whether it's Community Action Month or Weatherization Day, but we have a template as well in our toolkit for the 60th anniversary. So it's great to hear that there are a lot of folks talking about that. I see that in the chat. I see Arkansas doing some really good stuff, and a committee meeting here as well, and a video in New York with Jackie at the State Association there as well. So Tamika, Jackie, thanks for sharing both of those things, and encourage folks to put what you're doing into the chat. We can't wait to hear. Speaking of what we're doing, Jeannie you've been a great help as an advisor as we have led up to this point, and tools and resources and all sorts of interesting things that we're doing. Would you like to share a little bit about how you've helped what you've helped the partnership curate in terms of tools and resources?
Absolutely. So some of you may recall that over the years, been things, the 25th anniversary and the 30th and the 50th, and the network has had dialogues on poverty and rooting out poverty and many different things, logos, posters. And so this time around, the partnership has released a toolkit, and we've put that link in, and you can see it on their website. That is a resource of templates and starter pack ideas and sample proclamations, and just lots of different things in the toolkit that you can adapt. And I think one of the important things to note is that there's all different levels of activity, right? You can kind of have light lift kind of things like putting the 60th logo, on your website, all the way up to deep listening sessions that you might have in your community about what does it mean to achieve social and economic mobility? What does equity look like in our community? And I think you'll see that the starter pack list has lots of different kinds of activities. And so you can do a few things or you can do many things depending on your capacity, right? And Denise formed a 60th anniversary planning committee, and it was made up of state association and community action leaders who advised, and they said, we want a list of different things that agencies can do depending on their capacity. What can state associations do? And so take a look at that list of activities and that toolkit, and I think you'll find it's very helpful. You've seen the logo already, and on the website is Zoom backgrounds and sample media templates with the logo, and all of that can be adapted for your local agency. And in the coming weeks, additional op-ed templates and videos and timelines of history, all of those kind of things will continue to be posted. The other thing that the partnership has done that I think is really critical is made sure to harmonize all of this with May, Community Action Month. So many of you are very active in May and have been for some time, and use the Community Action Month toolkit that the partnership has released. And you'll see that the toolkits for the 60th anniversary and for May's Community Action Month are talking to each other, and there's a synergy. So I think in May, we're going to see a lot, right? We'll probably see a lot of things that integrate Community Action Month and the 60th anniversary. Of course, there'll be events at MLTC in a few weeks, and events at the annual conference, and we can share more about those. One timely thing is the partnership is sponsoring a poster contest. And we'll put a link to the poster contest, but there's still time. If you've got some creative ideas about a poster submission, there's prize money, $500 prize money for the winning submission. And so think about submitting in the poster contest if you haven't yet done that. So lots and lots of things, and definitely the opportunity to sort of meet all this where you're at, right? We know that people have a lot going on in different capacities at agencies. And so, don't think, well, I don't have the capacity to like start or meet this. There's a way that you can participate, and take a look at the toolkit, and you'll see some ideas.
Thanks, Jeannie. And there's a range of things. The committee, thank you, a shout out to the committee. We really appreciate all the work that you've done so far and will continue to do, but they were clear, right? They're there to represent the network, right? don't have us all doing the same thing. We got to have flexibility. We want stuff that's easy to do and stuff that might be more complex to do. So whatever you're able to do as a local agency, a state association, state office, that's fantastic. We really know that we're all stretched, but we really want to use this chance to talk about this network of an infrastructure to fight poverty across America. And David, I've heard you say in the past, right? If we had to build this today, right? This is something that's precious. This infrastructure, this national coast to coast, every corner of America to fight poverty. And you talked earlier about this being an opportunity, right? To elevate, to educate. What are your hopes as we go through 2024 and into 25 and 26 as local agencies commemorate their 60th anniversaries and beyond that, obviously? What do you hope we achieve? What's on your mind that you'd want folks to know about where do we want to be a year from now, or what do you hope that folks will achieve?
Well, I hope the country's still standing a year from now.
Mhm.
But it breaks down into 2 or 3 different categories. Number one is I hope all agencies celebrate the 60th anniversary, which is a reflection on where we've come, what we've accomplished, but also sets the stage for where we want to go. And so whatever events you have out there, I would suggest humbly that they look at what you want to.
Oh, we may have had a weather interruption for David. I think he's frozen. For folks who may not be here in the district area, DC area. Oh, there you are, David. Are you moving? We missed, you froze
Okay.
on us. Yep.
Well, that was the most important thing.
I know, right?
So there you go. You don't want to forget that, what I just said. On the events, give it serious thought. What you're doing is,
Yeah.
what do you want to accomplish? What is the message? Who's the messenger? Who's the target audience? Who's involved in the community? And what is the result you want out of that event? It's not simply we survived for 60 years.
Yep.
That's number one. 2, the accomplishment is it re-energizes, motivates this network. And with the changing of the guard that's happened in so many communities, I think that we could use a re-engagement, that a recognition that this is not your 9-to-5 job, that there is, fighting poverty is not easy. If it was, somebody else would have done it. We were given a very hard task in the Economic Opportunity Act to address poverty. Not easy to do. And a lot of people have put in a lot of time before the 60th to get us to the point of having 60. And then third, and I think is important, is a question that I've never mentioned before, but something has haunted me for 23 years. In 2000, I was vice chair of Al Gore's finance committee, and we had dinner at John Kerry's house. And this is in 2000. And it was a very small dinner, and I'm having dinner with Gore. Him and I are talking, and there's maybe, I don't know, 8 or 10 people. But Al Gore asked me this question. This is Vice President Gore. Asked me this question: David, what would a second war on poverty look like? So I hope that we use the 60th to reflect what we've done well, what we've accomplished, what can we improve on, and to be able to answer the question, where do we want to go? What would a second war on poverty? What do we need to even be more successful? I firmly believe that we're the good guys. You hear me talk about that a lot in my speeches. I firmly believe that we can look ourselves in the mirror every time, at the end of every day, and say, you know what I did today my community's better, or this network's better. The hours we put in, we've improved society. Now, I hope that we use this event to get us marching a little bit faster with a little bit more determination to get to that ultimate goal of making a more perfect union. That's how I view it.
That's a powerful goal, to make a more perfect union. And your colleague Tara Clark put into the chat your War on Poverty masterclass this fall. If folks, we've registered the team membership. I encourage everybody who's on today to register for that, to attend.
Denise,
Yeah, please.
What's interesting is a number of universities are talking to us about courses on what we're doing on the war on poverty. And so there is interest out there. And what a time to capture that and capitalize on it, because it ain't going to come for another 15 years with every facet out there, including how bad the country's hurting. So this is our moment, just as 1964 was.
Yeah. And just I want to lift up to some of the things that you talked about early in the response to this question. People, when you hope people will do a commemoration at their local agency and state association. You want them to be clear on what the message is they want to send, kind of what the purpose of these events are in local communities. Who is their target audience? Know who they're going to be speaking to, who will be involved, and kind of know what the purpose, what your why is to doing this. And I think your statement about we have an obligation here to lean in to help create a more perfect union, because we are privileged enough to have a job right now where we're able to look in the mirror every day and say, we have the ability to fight poverty every day when we come to work. So wanted to make sure to lift up some of those elements that you talked about there. Allison, what about from your perspective? I know you're helping us keep within the lines, right? You want us to help color in the lines. Some of us want to color outside the lines sometimes. What do you hope a year from now, 2 years from now, when we look back at these moments in time? What's on your mind?
Yeah, I mean, I think everything David said is, I would just echo all of that. I think I would just, you know, piggybacking off of his sort of comments, which I think were really well stated. You know, I think the education piece is so critical, and I think if we achieve, especially with the level of turnover that Cheryl was addressing and that Jeannie was addressing, if we achieve a level of understanding and groundedness, because even though we are about keeping people in line, I think what's so different about Community Service Block Grant is the sort of flexibility that funding provides. It just, there's no other funding that exists that is like this funding. It's small, yet it's really powerful. Which is why it's so desirable. And it's taken a lot to keep it, and we've done a really great job in maintaining it as a network. And I think, just to echo what David said, you know, let's congratulate ourselves in that. Let's educate ourselves about why that is with everybody who's new, so they understand. And then let's figure out how to make it work for us in the next, you know, 40 years, when we won't be here, but all new faces will be here, and maybe it will be just a continuation of supporting communities and elevating them to another level, which is what we're all about. And I think what's also so interesting is when you look at people who are thinking about and innovative ways to kind of address poverty as we move forward, they come back to some of the tenets that make up community action, which is community involvement, which is having everybody participate and having those that are impacted be the major voices that we're uplifting and informing how we're moving forward. So the model is one that is a strong one, and I think helping to work with that model and understanding that so that we can, you know, elevate it even further is the way to go.
Thanks,
That's what I
Allison.
hope we achieve.
Yeah. I heard you say we can use our gray crayon for CSBG and community action, right? We're all working in the gray. We're all working in the gray. Speaking of gray, coloring in the gray there, Cheryl, I know The states are an important part of this puzzle, right? What do you hope a year from now? What do you hope to achieve that we hope the network achieves during this time?
Well, I think a lot of it goes back to sort of deepening this impact. You know, we have 60 years of data points. We have 60 years of information on what's worked well, and 60 years of lessons learned too. And I think it's, you know, we have an opportunity to kind of take that and create a blueprint, you know, for how we want to move forward and really think, you know, as David mentioned, you know, being very strategic about how we want to move forward and what it is that we want to achieve. I think one of the things that I would love to be able to see in the next year and beyond is, you know, we've experienced a lot, you know, even within those 60 years, within the period of the pandemic, we've experienced a lot of change and turmoil and what have you. And we saw a lot of lessons bubbled up to the surface and things that worked well, and that perhaps some of those things we want to keep doing, kind of going forward. Maybe there's some things that we don't want to keep doing, as we kind of emerge out of the pandemic. Let's take all of that information and use that to sort of shift the narrative on what, you know, poverty and anti-poverty is going to look like, you know, and to use this phrase, sort of the second war on poverty. Let's define what that looks like and use all of the data points that we've collected over the years to help inform what that's going to look like going forward. You know, lastly, I would say in terms of our membership is making sure that we are working together in terms of being advocates for the program. You know, a lot of our state administrators obviously can't lobby or, you know, are not able to do that within their parameters. But I think that there are opportunities for cross collaboration when it comes to advocacy and making sure that we are sharing information as much as possible so that, you know, there are data points or things that we have at the state level that local agencies and state associations can use as they're lobbying, you know, their legislatures and members of Congress, and things that we can do to sort of help prime that pump. So those are a couple of things that I would love to see, you know, in the next several months going and beyond.
Thanks, Cheryl. And Jeannie, I see that you put in the chat, right, using this moment perhaps to attract board members and volunteers and donors, and a little bit of love for that comment too, coming in the chat as well. What do you hope? I mean, you saw how agencies entered and exited the 50th anniversary recognition, and here we are 10 years later with the 60th. What do you hope, folks? What do you hope that the network will achieve a year from now?
So I think we are always benefit from, you know, sharpening our shared values, our shared understanding, our shared vision. That's how you keep a movement together. You don't have a movement if you don't share values and share a vision and have shared understanding. And I think, you know, sometimes we're so busy doing the work that we don't stop and have the conversations and do the thinking together about what are our shared values, what's our shared vision and understanding. And so I hope that, you know, this time next year, we, you know, maybe have had more opportunity to reflect together, and strengthen the movement. You know, I think, as we've talked about, we have new people. And so we want to ignite that passion in them that so many of us have held on to for many, many years. And we maybe need to rekindle some passion among people that have been here that, you know, it's been a lot, right? So I think renew, heal. I think we're talking about war on poverty, and I want to also sort of balance that with, we have a lot of healing to do too, right? And so thinking about healing inside our network, but also in this country, and how do we you know, through our activities, do some some sharpening of values and vision and strengthening the movement, some healing, and some igniting passion. I guess those would be my watchwords and thoughts for today.
Great, thank you. And you and David have both mentioned kind of healing in this moment, right? And we're excited. We just confirmed John Powell to join us again for our winter conference in Las Vegas in 6 weeks or so. And his approach is about bridging, right? And this country needs bridgers. And community action has been a bridge in community across aisles, across geography, across communities since day one. So thank you for elevating that. Such an important purpose of this opportunity. And I'll just add that people are tired. They've been tired, and the pandemic really, and just the phenomenal work of this network during CARES. But how are we going to pivot and re-energize going forward? How do we ensure that our workforce and our boards, our volunteers are connected and engaged? And we know, the framing of a national network, that's our job sometimes as national organizations and as local agencies, right? You're worried about your community. And I hope this opportunity to link to a national moment in time is an opportunity to connect your local agencies and associations to this national infrastructure to fight poverty. I think it's a really unique window of time for us.
Denise, that comment makes me, we haven't talked about the 60th anniversary and then local 60s. So maybe you want to say a word about that before we go.
Yeah, we recognize, right? There are some community action agencies, right, who were formed in 64. There's a bunch that came through in 65 and then 66, 67. And then even if there's a clump probably in 81, 82, right? There's clumps all the time. There's a little bit of ebb and flow. The point of CSBG being entitlement-based funding is so communities have an infrastructure that is consistent. But we recognize that not all agencies are going to celebrate or commemorate, today or this year. So we hope that agencies will find the tools and resources to continue this commemoration for what's meaningful to you and when it's meaningful to you as local agencies. There's times to connect, and there's some times that it's about local engagement, and whatever we can do at the national office to support your efforts, whether it's in 2024, 25, 26 and beyond, please don't hesitate to ask. We want to help you make a difference in your local communities. I did see a question come through the chat, and please put your questions in the chat and or in the Q&A window. And David, I'll start with you. I saw the question, what do you think the greatest achievement over the 60 years has been for community action? What would you lift up as probably the biggest accomplishment for this network?
If you had to have one singular answer, it would probably be survival. And just combating challenge after challenge after challenge. And a lot of historians, we get a few calls a month, think that the program ended in 73, 74 under Nixon, or in 81. So survival, number one. But number two, I think it is, we can claim partial role and share in I think, a successful effort for making poverty and addressing poverty on the national agenda. We may disagree with some of the solutions that, or some of the policies that certain members may propose, but you can't ignore poverty. And we're part of that reason, that rationale. I think that's a couple of very, very, very substantial. Plus the laboratory, the programs that we spun and spun off, the laboratory aspect, the tripartite board, the maximum feasible participation is clearly one of our hallmarks and benchmarks of success. Just the number of Black legislators that got their start, their growth through the Community Action Network is unbelievable. both state and federal. So we could list a lot. But I think it's the network. If I had to pick one, that may not be unanimously agreed to, but if I had to pick one, it is the network rallying together to keep America's commitment to a war on poverty going.
Hear, hear. And I think one of the points in time in recent history where we saw that achievement reach deeply into this country was how you were able to navigate the $1 billion for CARES. Layering on top of that, how states and feds invested in community action agencies and associations around emergency rental relief through the LIWAP program. All of those resources, where did they turn when our communities needed survival? Community action.
But Denise, I don't want to
Yeah,
dominate
please.
here, but people have to understand, and that's part of the education. Even though the community services block grant is a very small portion of their an agency's budget, most agencies, it defines us as a network. It opens up all the other opportunities for funding. Without it, we're one of 14 million nonprofits in the country. You're out there competing on your own. So, you know, we get groups that take a run at our money. Gosh, every 2 weeks, somebody's after a piece of it. This defines us. So part of that education is to understand, yeah, it's small, but it is not only symbolically important, it is important financially for other aspects of your agency and its efforts in the community.
Vital. Thank you. We're coming up here to the top of the hour. Are there any other thoughts from our presenters here today that you want to make sure we leave with folks? And I'm going to circle back to David at the end. So Allison, I'm going to start with you this time. What's that last thing you want to make sure people hear from you today?
I just want to echo again a lot of what David said. I think it's really critical, and I know I might be repeating myself here, but the uniqueness of this funding is something that I think we often lose sight of for the reason that David stated, because it is oftentimes not the largest source of funding. But, you know, we have our finger in Head Start, we have our finger in weatherization, we have our finger in the low-income home energy assistance program, all of these federal programs, because of this piece of legislation, the Economic Opportunity Act, which kind of birthed all of these programs. And so AmeriCorps, all of these programs. And so it's really, when you think about it, it kind of, it makes you kind of be in awe of this, because we are the federal movement on poverty, and we are the federal funding for poverty, and we are the central source of that. And so I think recognizing, you know, it's a great weight, but we've carried it quite well. And I think the way that we've been structured as community action agencies has made us very viable to all political persuasions, because our focus is the same and we care about the same thing, which is our communities and the people in our communities. So I would just leave us with that and take that and have that kind of hopefully drive you as you celebrate and kind of move forward and innovate.
Thank you. Cheryl, what would you want to leave with us today?
Well, I think I would pick up where Jeannie left off when she sort of talked about sort of these shared values and making sure that we are honing in on those values and really working in collaboration with each other to kind of promote, you know, as we talk about the promise of community action going forward for the next 60 years. And I think that this is an opportunity for us to really work collaboratively in close partnership, as we've always done, and to continue to do that around those shared values and a sense of deepening our impact of the work that we've been doing. So
Great, thank you. Jeannie.
So hey, check out the toolkit, and there's some key messages in that toolkit that I think will help with all the things we're talking about. But The first one is that, you know, we have changed and we are relevant, but with that, I think we have held on to this idea that, you know, poverty is complex. Poverty isn't just about housing or food or education or, you know, it's complex. And as much as people have tried to force us to, you know, do certain things and go certain ways, we've held on to that, you know, comprehensive coordinated approach, which was the original idea. And we've changed and we're relevant, but we've held on to what's really important. And I think the more that we can just live into that and understand it and embrace it, you know, the stronger we'll be moving forward. So I appreciate everybody's time and thanks for everything. Thanks, Denise.
Thank you, Jeannie. David, what would be the thing you'd want to leave people with here today?
Be happy, but not content.
Mm,
Be happy you work at a good profession. You make a difference in your community and in society, in people's lives, but not content because we got more work to do. We can always set the bar higher, and America needs us to reach higher. So enjoy it, take pride, look at yourself in the mirror and say, I did good for my community today. So be happy about that, a good profession. And, you know, it's all going to work out, and we're going to be around. We're going to have funding. We're going to have responsibility. We're going to have recognition. But don't be content on simply resting on where we're at. We can do more. We can do better. And we can do greater things for the country.
wow. Be happy, but not content. We can do great things for this country. There's no better way to leave today's conversation. Thank you, everybody, for joining us here today. Thank you to our panelists here today. We greatly appreciate you. Thank you for all the good vibes in the chat. Community action changes people's lives every day. And as I've said, we win the war on poverty every day, one family at a time. And that's because of you, the work you do every day. We appreciate you. We love you. Happy 60th anniversary. We will see you soon on a event, conference, webinar. Share with us what you're doing. We want to know. We want to lift it up. We want to be a part of your commemorations as well. So with that, keep helping people and changing lives. And thank you for everything you do, Community Action. We will see you soon. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone.